The use case I'll be showing you today has to do with the South China Sea and the general chaos going on within the region. Right now we're starting off within the common operating picture of the Equitus ecosystem. I've already brought in a lot of different data sets that I got from within the system and also from just doing my own research. I've already brought that data in and I'll start displaying it as layers on the map, such as the ports in China. These are the southern ports. And the ones that you see more inland, those are like river ferries and things like that. Then I also added in the exclusive economic zones. So those are outlined. That's just a shapefile that I found on the internet and dragged and dropped right into the system. Then I added in some sample data for Chinese military naval vessels. And as you zoom in or hover over these, you can display all the metadata, the ship name, and any sort of data that's associated with that ship within the system. Then I started adding in some of the different Chinese artificial islands. You can zoom all the way in and view any of the infrastructure that's being added to the various islands, as well as you can see that they're dredging out harbors, etc. Now I'll zoom out a bit and view some of the other countries that are adding in artificial islands as well, such as the Philippines. And we can see that the Philippines and the Chinese islands down in the Spratly Islands are very close to each other. They're kind of overlapping, and it's just creating a lot of chaos between those two countries within the region as well. Such as between these two islands here. One is Thiru Island, owned by the Philippines, and I can click into that and get any data associated with that island. And about 30 or so kilometers away, we have the Chinese island called the Subi Reef. Now when we zoom in on Thiru Island, we can see that they've got an airstrip right here, so I'll go ahead and populate that layer and mark that. And then on the Subi Reef, what do they have? A nice little SAM site right there. And this is real data. This isn't just sample data. The Subi Reef does have a SAM site on it, and that is an approximate location of that SAM site. And if we zoom out, we can see that China has two other islands within the region that also have SAM sites. And so they've basically formed this triangular kill zone within the Spratly Islands. So if I wanted to, I can go ahead and draw on the map as well as an analyst. I'm going to add a range circle and just identify the range of these SAM sites. So we'll populate those. So now it's going to stand out really nicely on the map. Now if I want to, I can go ahead and start populating some of the other countries' islands in the region as well, such as the Malaysian ones. They've got a ton down here. Taiwan, they have a handful, like 2 or 3. And then the biggest offender is actually Vietnam, believe it or not. They've got tons of features that they've added and built up in the region as well. They've been very aggressive with that. So you can see this region it's just got a lot going on within it. So it has huge potential for conflict within that area. Now if I wanted to look at the Paracel Islands and look at the Chinese artificial islands within that region and their capabilities, I can go ahead and start populating that too if I have that information, such as maybe I want to know which islands have helipads on them. So I can populate that data. What's nice is you can drag and drop these layers any way you want. So if I want to see a different layer on top of another, I just drag it up and now it'll stand out on top. Maybe I want to know which ones have harbors. I can see that. You would think that every island would basically come with a harbor. Not the case, not exactly the case, but I can zoom all the way in and I'll see the exact location of these harbors. So make these very accurate. As long as you've got the data, you can display it. Now we can see that this area is extremely chaotic, but we also know that China's not just staying within that region. They've also been sending their militia fishing vessels all over the place, all over the world, and into places where they're not supposed to go, such as into the North Korean waters and their exclusive economic zone. So, according to the UN, only North Korea is allowed to fish in these waters, but we know that China's been sending their vessels up here. We can populate that data as well. So we can see a couple ships, they probably forgot to turn off their transponders. This is actually satellite data tracking these different ships with their transponders. So we can see these ships actually forgot to turn them off, or maybe they just didn't care or think about it. And we can tell that they are going into waters and loitering and fishing where they're not supposed to be going. The other problem is, since about 2011, about 656 North Korean fishing vessels have washed up on the shore of Japan in various areas all along the shore. And it's crazy stories too, so when you zoom in, you can look at all these individual data points and actually click into the various points and read any data associated with it, such as this one. It says a large fishing vessel washed ashore with no apparent damage. Inside were the bodies of 9 decapitated men. Their heads were not on board the vessel. And it's similar stories going all up and down the coast of Japan. And basically, we didn't really know what was going on for many years, but essentially what they've determined is these Chinese militia, the naval militia, are coming into these waters and essentially ramming these vessels. They've got reinforced hulls, so they're able to just ram into boats, run right through them. And that's why sometimes you just get half of a hull washed up on the shore, or a stern or something like that. They'll also board these vessels and kill everyone on board. And just basically destroy these vessels, and that's why they're washing up on the shore. As I said, since 2011 to 2019, about 656 North Korean fishing vessels have washed up on the shore. We don't even know how many have not washed up on the shore. There could be thousands of those vessels just sank in the ocean after China destroyed them, essentially. We can zoom out and we can see where all the Chinese are sending these vessels. We can look all over the world. You can see they are going basically everywhere. They're staying pretty far away from the United States, which is wise. It's a wise decision, but they're going everywhere else in the world. This is all just Chinese fishing vessels. You can zoom into any of these heat map clusters and view every individual data point. Now, what's also nice is Equitus, as we said, is an ecosystem, so it connects to all the other entry points within the ecosystem, such as your social media analysis entry point. So I'm going to actually remove any social media data from the project, and I'm going to bring it back in. So that data is gone. I'm going to press this button here. We can see that we can add data pretty much any way we want to, from a saved file, like a JSON or something, Excel files, things like that. But also, as I was saying, it connects to the other data points, or the other entry points within the system. So I'm going to add in some social media data now on South China Sea and illegal fishing. As soon as you run your OSINT scrape in the other entry point, you're able to view that data on this geospatial map. So I'm going to load that data now. It's going to populate. And we'll go back to the South China Sea. Now, it's a lot of social media data, so I'm actually going to cluster that. You can see right now they're kind of like green and red dots. It's measuring sentiment. You can click into it. It's going to give you the actual post on what was said. But I want to display it a little differently, so I'm going to enable clustering. Now we can see, okay, in the Philippines, we've got 503 different posts of people talking about illegal fishing in China in the time period that I wanted to analyze. And you can click into these clusters, and it'll give you a breakdown of all the different posts that were brought in on it. And then say I want to view the data over time so that I can start performing predictive analysis on where these Chinese fishing vessels are going to go. And turn on a timeline filter. Tell it the time period I want to analyze, just a few months at a time, a few days at a time, whatever I want. And then I can play it. And that allows me to do predictive analysis. So now that we've taken a look at the geospatial program, I'm going to start peeling back some of the layers and showing you some of the other entry points and basically how we get to this point within the Equitus ecosystem.